The reason we're slightly late is there's a big COP presidency event going on, and they are an hour and a half behind. And the CEO of GCCA had to sneak out, and our president is en route as well. Yes. Very good. Very good. So right, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, member companies, partners, stakeholders, thank you ever so much for joining us at the launch event of our Concrete Future Pavilion, and also the launch event of our cement industry net zero progress report. It's 2 years since we made that commitment along with our members in terms of producing net zero concrete by 2050 in line with 1.5 and the Paris Agreement. And this report is a reflection of the hard work that our member companies are undertaking right across the world, but as well as there is a huge role for stakeholders, for governments, to help us expedite the transition, and many of which are here this evening. And I thank you, and you will hear from them as well. Just before I introduce the next speaker, it's worth reminding ourselves of why we are here. What is it about concrete that makes it an essential product? So, I attempt to play the video.
Look around. You might see concrete around you. It's in many of the things that we rely on which support our communities and modern world. Our homes, our offices, hospitals, schools and transport networks. But it is often hidden. Delivering our clean water, supporting the move to clean energy, or the foundations on which our built environment lives and thrives. Concrete is the most used material on Earth after water. But have you ever paused to wonder why? Concrete has been used throughout history, from the Romans who used it to build aqueducts and colosseums that still stand today. And since the invention of Portland cement in the 19th century, we've been able to make the strong, long-lasting and versatile concrete we know today. In fact, concrete can be moulded into any shape you can conceive of. It's also fully resistant to fire, water and weather damage, which means we can build resilient communities in the face of a changing climate. And it's possible to make cement and concrete in most places on our planet, which makes it local and free of long-distance transport costs and impacts. That's why it's used to build everything from airports to village wells, from houses to skyscrapers, from power plants to dams and water treatment plants, providing clean drinking water to millions of people. And concrete's future looks even brighter. With advances in technology, we're finding new ways to make concrete stronger, lighter and, importantly, lowering its CO2 intensity as we work towards our net zero mission. So, the next time you're walking on a sidewalk, driving on a bridge, or even charging your phone, remember the important role that concrete plays in our modern world. It can be a crucial foundation, an enabler of our lives, or a true marvel of engineering. Concrete is essential for today and for building the sustainable world of tomorrow.
So, a little plug. That film and all the films that we make at the GCCA are available on the website for you to use, share within your networks, and get the message out about the essential nature of concrete, but also the net zero mission that our member companies are on. So I now want to hand over, without further ado, to the GCCA CEO, Thomas Guillot, to say a few words indeed about the GCCA and the broad work that we're doing to decarbonise the sector. Thomas.
Thank you very much, Paul. And indeed, apologize for being late, as I was with the COP presidency to launch what we call the Industrial Transition Accelerator. And you will see I will come back to that. because this is one of the fundamental things that we are doing in our sectors, and I think we are doing relatively well, is collaboration on working with others on the commitment on in delivering the net zero vision that we have collectively. But let me come back on that afterwards. So, first, a few words on GCCA. I mean, some of you may know us, but not necessarily everybody here. So I would like to repeat a little bit what we stand for. So we are the Global Cement and Concrete Association, and we cover about 80% of the cement sector outside China. But we also have some key cement manufacturers from China. So China is really in the loop with us as well. We have in particular CNBM. We have a lot of Chinese cement company from Taiwan, and we have Huaxin, which has joined us recently. And we are also in discussion with a lot of Chinese colleagues, not only at company level, but also at sectorial level with the government to see how we can engage and how we can work together on the transition. That was about China. The GCCA is what we call a CEO-led organization. That means that the CEOs are actually guiding us through that process, through the discussion, through the strategy, and that's important when we talk about commitment, when we talk about ambition and vision. That means that we have people behind us that are committed and that want to walk the talk on the various climate, sustainability topic, innovation topic that we are working at GCCA. Another important thing is that we work with the National Cement Association around the world, national and regional cement association around the world. So we really try to unite forces, to work together, and to make sure that what we do at the global level has and resonates at local level with concrete actions. I mean, I want to pick one. For example, Rafael is here from Emirates, actually, and we have been working relentlessly for the last 12 months, 18 months, since we know that COP will be in Dubai, to work together in convincing the Emirates government in doing things on cement, on concrete. And the latest is that Emirates is actually joining us in as co-chair of the Breakthrough Cement, which is a major initiative, and that's also thanks to the cooperation we have global, local with the different actors. So thank you for that, Rafael. But I think it's a good illustration, and when I mentioned China, that's also the spirit that we have in working together. So for us, fundamentally, it's important to say that we really cannot make it work alone, and that we need to work with a lot of stakeholders and with a lot of actors along the value chain to make it happen. So what is the commitment we made, right? So we have presented in Glasgow, I mean, that was just short before Glasgow, what we have called at the time probably the biggest commitment, sectoral commitment that was ever made from the cement industry. I mean, 80% of the industry without China, with some key Chinese members, as I said. It's about going to net zero at the end of the day. But I mean, we are all committed to net zero, right? We are all committed to net zero by 2050, and the question is now is how we have to make it happen. So for that, we had an exercise which was about 18-month exercise, more than 200 people from across the industry, working together on thinking on how this journey can take place. With some decisive moment, decisive step, 2030 is a key milestone for us, and of course, this is the vision of the net zero in 2050. How do we make it happen? We have identified 7 levels, 7 technologies that across the value chain will help us or will make these things possible. The first one is obviously on the construction, the way we build smarter. We call it, in principle, it's funny to say from an organization like us, but less concrete in construction, right? Make it more efficient. The second one is about the industrialization of the ready mix. We all know, using a bag of cement, how much you can spoil on spare the material. So it's important to think how we can use the substance wisely, this gray substance, which is the cement. The third element is what do you put in your cement, making sure that you minimize and you really work on low carbon cement, on increase the clinker, or reduce rather the clinker factor, on increase the quantity of non-clinker element into the cement. Fourth one is about the clinker, how we cook, how we make the clinker, on how we build in our operations some circularity loops on in particular how we use the energy from waste which cannot be recycled in other elements. And there is a big element which is the carbon capture, which is a major part of the net zero roadmap here, and that's a technology that needs to develop, that needs to mature. However, we have this technology is existing. There is already some pilot plant, I mean, of significant size, it's 50,000 tons per year in China, that is operational. And we will launch, the industry will launch in the name of Heidelberg Material. They will launch the first plant, full scale, in Norway, that was developed over the last years, and this will come, I think it's Q1 2024, if I'm not mistaken. And you might have seen actually the same company, and I will not repeat the name because I have many members that will be jealous, creating this actually new product on the market, this Evo Net Zero, which is the first cement fully net zero with carbon capture that they are putting on the market. And I think that's an interesting development from the industry to say we are all going that way. Of course, we have then some elements like the green electricity, which is either coming from the grid or from the green electricity that we are building. And there is this specific component which we call the recarbonation, which is a very specific property from the concrete to reabsorb CO2 over the lifetime. So this is something that is a reality, and it has been demonstrated, and is actually in the accounting of the IPPC, all in line with this. So there is fundamentally this milestone of 2030. So we call it the decade to deliver. I mean, I want to say that we're already 3 or 4 years into the decade. So I mean, that's not anymore a decade. And it's really important that we actually work on do not miss the 2030 target. So the target are to reduce by a quarter in concrete, the footprint in concrete, and by 20% in cement. By using and by implementing on supercharging, as they say in the big conference, these technologies that are today existing and that are mastered very well by our industry, from the waste to the clinker factor, all these new products on all these new developments. And with this, we think we will make it. The big challenge is also to prepare the carbon capture. We have to be mindful, on our roadmap on that is ambitious in a way. We are at the turn of the decade. We need to master the technology. We need to understand how the things work, how to produce a net zero kiln. I mean, I told you that we will have the first one coming next year. We have in the pipeline 146 projects that are declared by our members all over the world. And we have about 29 projects that have suppose or will be ready before the turn of the decade 2030. And all the others, many of others are ready before the 2030, 2035. But most important is not the number of projects that we will or will not have in 2030. What is important is that we discuss and engage the conditions and the possibilities with the government to make this happen. A carbon capture is nice, but you need to have a carbon management value chain. You need to have a carbon management legislation. You need to have a price on carbon, because else you will not make a return on investment on a very expensive technology. So all these things needs to be discussed or needs to be put forward with the government, and that's how we work in what we call the Net Zero Accelerator. But let's pause 1 minute before I come to the Net Zero Accelerator on what we have achieved so far, because this is about achievement, this is about doing things. 23% reduction of the footprint on 1990 baseline. This is the number of 2022, and this is 3 percentage points more than what was the number in 2020. So in 2 years, we have accelerated, if you want, the curve of progression. It's a little bit barbarian, but when you make statistics, right, you look at the regression curve, and you look at the slope, and you understand whether you accelerate or whether you not accelerate. And the good news is that we are accelerating, and this is the trend that we need to meet the objective of 2030, right? We have great hope, as you see in most of the people that have written here, and you can see on the website, and you can see on the document that is there, the activities and the actions of all our members that actually leading to the development. And I will cite another member, CEMEX. It's our president, so I mean, I'm happy to say CEMEX. Reduction of 12% in the last 3 years in that company alone. 12%. This is something that was achieved in the past in the form of trend before we make the commitment on a decade time. So this is really significant development that all the members are going into and all the members are getting done. Now, how do we transfer this global commitment into what we call local reality, right? And that's what we call the Global Net Zero Accelerator. And in fact, this is a little bit what we were launching today. So we are a bit ahead with our accelerator. I mean, that's a little bit ahead of the rest of the industries, I want to say. And this exercise here has actually inspired the Emirate presidency of this COP to create what they call now the Industrial Transition Accelerator. This is the work where we have been doing here by producing a global roadmap on having a systematic rollout in the countries with the National Cement Association, as I explained earlier, to explain how we can make it happen. And the goal of this is really to understand how every technology, the 7 levels, can be played in the respective countries, in the respective legislation, and to understand with that what are the mandatory change, regulation, adaptation. I give a few examples. We build on circularity. You don't build a circular business case if you don't have enforced regular regulation, right? Influence circular regulation, sorry. And that's fundamental, because if you don't adapt that, there is no business case, there is no solution to change. We are calling for a change of model, and the change of model call for an adaptation of the regulation, and this is fundamental. The second thing, or the third rather, deliverable that we have with this accelerator is the projects, right? We need to put the projects on the table, and we need to come to the financing world, we need to come to the stakeholders saying, look, we have the technology, we have the means to make it happen, but look, these are the conditions, these are the possibilities, and these are the return on investment that we can have through this type of activities. And there we have serious discussion with what can be done and what cannot be done. But only going this way, country by country, project by project, and I want to say company by company, we can make things progress in reality. And you see here, I'm particularly proud, and we have put for the first time on that map China here as a blue, because we have engaged actually a discussion, a very serious discussion with the Chinese Building Material Federation and the China Cement Association on how we can also discuss and embark China on that discussion. Not that they are late, not that they are not doing anything, but just as a statement of, look, we are in the game and we are making things happen. And when we know the impact of China on technologies, that's very, very relevant. So where we are, as I said earlier, I mean, I commented that a little bit. We are not afraid also to say and to explain what we are doing. So we have cooperated with LEADIT on what we call the Green Cement Technology Tracker. I think we launched that actually at the COP last year, right? And we are there, you know, pointing all the carbon capture projects that are emerging. So I said we have 146 projects. I mean, a lot of them are covered so far with non-disclosure agreements. They are initial research or early projects. But we have already now today, 49 projects that are declared, and that will be done before the end of 2035 as well. And these are scale projects. These are real projects that will deliver this net zero cement. Again, an example of cooperation between a sector, a partner, a stakeholder, that come to us and say, listen, we want to do something with you, we want to be you know, your voice speaker in a way, and show that you are actually progressing and understand how this can be better explained to the stakeholders and to the different people around the table. Policies, as I said earlier, policy is really a fundamental part. And there we are very happy that we are engaging in the cement breakthrough and the Industrial Transition Accelerator, where we just were for the launch. Again, we need to adapt the policy. This is a fundamental part. Many of the circular business, the discussion on low carbon product or near carbon product, the discussion on carbon capture, use and store needs a different set of regulation, and that's what we will be busy doing with the government of Canada and the government of Emirates, going through country by country after we have a clear plan in mind, worked locally with the guys in the countries, and see how we can make it happen. Innovation. Innovation is a fundamental part of GCCA. And on that, we differ from many associations. And I'm not saying bad thing by saying this, but GCCA is working about 30% of its time on different innovation activities. We have two world-class platforms in that sense. We have first what we call the research network, which is a cooperation between industrial, also from the value chain. There again, we have a mixture of companies, we have equipment manufacturing companies participating in this, on looking at basic research, at pre-competitive research, and see how we can do. There is 75 PhDs working on different thematics related to clinker, concrete, cement, product, construction, etc. And all focus on one common element, which is going to net zero and facilitating the net zero journey. That's for the pre-competitive research, internal with our forces and with the academics around that world. The second platform is what we call the Open Challenge. That's a fantastic startup accelerator. So it's purely, I call it a speed dating between smart startups that are active in the green tech, in the build tech, and organizing the meeting between these people that bring technologies and our members. So we have 42 members that are actually looking and scrutinizing of, is that technology, does this technology has a chance or not? And you know, in the startup theory, you have what they call in this concept, I mean, I learned that in one of the sessions, the valley of death. And this is exactly what we help bridge. The valley of death is the moment where the things has been demonstrated in the laboratory and the moment where it goes commercial. And that's the moment where the startup needs to get in contact with the industry, with the sector, to understand whether this technology has a chance or not, whether you can scale it, whether you can make things happen, right? And that's what we are bridging. And in a one-year process, we accelerate many startups in going that way. You have here the 6 startups that were last year, where we have built a consortium on some of it really interesting consortium. Well, actually, all of them very interesting consortium, from different type of membrane for carbon capture, different type of amine, different type of we have a bio solution for carbon capture. And this year we have launched on the products, on the material ingredients for net zero material. And there again we had 70 startups competing and proposing solutions. And today we are working with 15 startups on looking and exploring what can be done and how we can transition. So on that thing, we very much differ from many other associations, but this is really a key part of our development in reaching the development. Now, I told you before, we are strong on we are decarbonizing, and the industry is moving because our members are walking the talk, and because our members are making things happen, right? And that's really a strong commitment that we have, and I am happy to actually announce that we have 2 new members that have signed up just before COP. We're in discussion with the third one, so maybe at the end of the week I will say we have 3 new members, and that's excellent. So and that shows the attractivity of the model actually also, right? I mean, it's interesting. So I want to browse through, you know, some of the example, and you see it reach everything, all the type. It's investment or development of low carbon product. It is development of methodologies. It is development of clinker, solutions. It is development of everything along the value chain, and you see how our members. You have this in the little books, so I will not go in most of it, but how piece by piece, and we select, you know, only one example, but there were many examples. We had to force to have only one, from Latin America to Spain to Europe to India to Africa. Everybody is working on this building on bringing its stone on the development of this low carbon journey. So I move. I mean, Dangote from Africa, of course. Fletcher from New Zealand, Heidelberg Material, I already cited, I will not do. Cement, Holcim, I mean, just to say another company, Washin, again, so these are all examples that you will find all over from associations, from the development, etc. So to wrap it up to go closely, I want to say one more things on this is also giving the floor to the other speakers tonight. Collaboration is essential. And what we have been trying to do over the last years with GCCA is to work on to give the hand with people that can challenge us and make us stronger. It's good to be challenged on different things. We had a debate in the industry on certain things, on how much carbon capture we can do, on how much commitment we can do, etc. This is very, very sane. This is good to have this debate. We are one of few industries that actually stand together and say, look, I agree, I disagree, etc. And at the end of the day, we come together and we make such commitment, but on the basis of a reflection, on the basis of a thought process that makes us stronger and that points us the directions on the solutions to get there. And that's something that is really dear to us and very important. So I want to open the floor to our other contributors, right? And I want to thank actually Hannah, right? And Hannah will explain how we actually been working together on how getting things done. You will explain.
Actually, Ran, if you can wait just a moment, because Fernando Gonzalez, who I want to introduce as the GCCO president and CEO of CEMEX, we're inviting him just for a few reflections. He's the newly elected president of the GCCA, and it's a privilege to have him with us today.
Thank you. Well, yeah, I just heard part of what Thomas said, so I don't want to repeat perhaps the part that I didn't listen. But I just want to reinforce some simple messages. You know, our industry is among the so-called hard-to-abate industries, and when I think who defined what is hard to abate, I think that was defined years ago by somebody that didn't have a clear idea on how to do it. But I think nowadays the industry is wiser. The industry has much more knowledge. The industry is aiming to net zero, I mean to free carbon. And now we know that besides or on top of our products, same that other industrial products are essential to society and to economic development. Now we know that the transition towards net zero is feasible, and a very large portion, at least the one that has to be executed in the short term defined as the next 6 years, meaning from now to 2030, is a transition that is going to be creating value for customers, value for shareholders, for employees, and other stakeholders. Perhaps the one of the very relevant issues in this transition towards carbon neutrality, in our case, is carbon capture. Carbon capture is feasible, is doable technically, but the business case is still to be proof. So currently there are a number, as Thomas mentioned, a number of projects already in execution, but in most of the cases those projects are developed where financial conditions and certain regulations are in place. I'm referring mainly to the case of Europe, and in other geographies that perhaps the conditions are not there yet. But I'm sure they will come. But the good news is the transition is feasible, is doable, it's happening as we speak, and we can create value by doing it. You know, I remember time ago, a long time ago, you know, when the main concept was about sustainability. I remember 3 elements of sustainability were mentioned, and the first one was economic sustainability. I think we have to positively engage and to aim and to look for carbon neutrality with the idea that it's economically sustainable, economically attractive. And again, the main challenge is perhaps knowledge. When you don't have the mastery, everything is too hard. If you don't know how to play piano, it's very hard to play piano. But once you learn and you have the ability and the master at hand, it can be done. And on top of that, you can even enjoy it, doing it. So thanks to all for being here today, and hope you continue enjoying the rest of the program. Thanks a lot.
Wise words, Fernando. Thank you so much for joining us today. So just a reminder, we're here for the launch of the report. You can all pick a copy up at the back. Of course, it's on our website as well that you can be able to download, because we are encouraged to do a paper-free COP, so we've only got a limited number of printed documents. So Fernando and Tomo were both talking about unlocking the net zero transition through government policy, through working with different stakeholders who can help us do that. And of course, the GCCA is involved in that. We've got a seat at the top table, so Tomo and Fernando and others. We're with the COP presidencies today. We're working with the government of Canada and the UAE in terms of the cement breakthrough. And a number of different stakeholders have also contributed to our net zero progress report. A couple of them are here this evening. And so I invite Rana Gunam, who is the unit chief for energy at UNIDO, who's one of our key partners on the net zero transition. Thank you, Rana.
Thanks, Paul, and thanks to the GCCA for a great partnership and for inviting us here. Well, let me start by saying it's very hard to top up the passion, the commitment, and the knowledge as well that Thomas brings into this discussion. So it's been a wonderful journey partnering with GCCA for a number of reasons. So UNIDO works with GCCA at two levels. First, at the global level, under something called the Industrial Deep Decarbonization Initiative, where we're working on developing harmonized standards for products like steel, cement, and concrete. And so inputs that GCCA brings us from industry across different parts of the world are instrumental really to make sure that these standards and definitions that we are developing leave no one behind, and really make sure that perspectives of industries from developing countries are as well taken on board. So in addition to that, also globally, GCCA supports us in advocating for green public procurement as a key lever for giving the right incentives for industries to make the investments that are needed to make the change. So anytime we need a champion from industry to come and advocate for that with us, we're sure that GCCA can provide that. Now, how we're taking this now to the next level and working more at country level. So in 2 days, we will be launching a technical assistance facility, which is initially supported by Germany, but we're actually also working with a number of donors to contribute to that facility. And essentially what we want to do is to work with governments on establishing the right policy environments. So starting with doing more of these roadmaps. How many did you say you did, Thomas? 10 roadmaps. So how do we get those to 20 and 30 and 40 and make sure that they're really implemented also in many countries? How do we work on setting up the right incentives, carbon pricing, carbon markets? I mean, there's a lot of questions, and each country is going to have its own pathway. Each country has its own set of incentives that are suitable also for their industry. So through this facility, we'll be able to work with 5 countries for the time being, considering the funding available, and we hope to really grow that more and more. At the same time, a core part of this facility is working on developing a pipeline of projects, so by extending support to industry in order to develop their feasibility studies and pre-feasibility studies and help really in moving from just an idea into the action. The last piece of it is actually connecting to in-country projects where we mobilize grant support from multilateral donors like the Global Environment Facility and the Green Climate Fund to set up in-country projects. So, again, it's more of these accelerators that are being implemented in Thailand, for example. How do we replicate these examples of accelerators in other countries to help draw in new innovations in decarbonization of cement and concrete. So we contributed to this publication, very happy to do so, and very happy to continue as well collaboration under the cement breakthrough. And yeah, I think it's great to have a proactive industry partner, so thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Rana. It's a pleasure to work with you, of course. So just a reminder, we've only got a few more speeches left. In about 10 minutes, the great news is we've got some refreshments for you all. And let me tell you the Herculean task that was to get here. So thanks for all of those that helped. So we did have a number of different stakeholder contributors to our Net Zero Progress Report. And I'd like to invite Robert Watt from Lead It to represent them this evening, just to say a few words about their work. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Thomas. Before I say anything about Lead It, I would just like to say that, as Thomas said, collaboration is key to getting us to net zero, and I think that the GCCA has been exemplary in collaborating, not only seeking out collaboration, but actively involving partners and welcoming a challenge function as well. We're very happy to be able to support through some of the analysis that we've done together to develop this green cement technology tracker, which you'll find in this report and online as well. Lead It was set up in 2019. It was launched by the Prime Ministers of India and Sweden, just on the cusp of that decade of delivery that the GCCA has identified in this report. At that time, we really were faced with trying to persuade people that the impossible was possible, that the technological solutions were on the cusp of being implemented, that there were pilots that could be delivered. Where we are now is actually doing things on the ground. So Lead It's work will in the future partly be to support two key industry transition partnerships that were announced today and yesterday. Yesterday, India and Sweden announced their industry transition partnership, and today, United Kingdom and Brazil announced their industry decarbonisation hub. Both of these will be supported by Lead It and UNIDO, and it's great to see Rana here. We have worked together for many years on this, and we're going to be trying to activate the financing to enable final investment decisions to take place in these countries to enable decarbonisation. And specifically with India in mind, the declaration between Sweden and India mentions both steel and cement as sectors that they wish to focus on. So we will be there to support them, both to help in the planning, developing a viable project pipeline, but crucially to make sure that the international assistance offer is there to make sure that concessional finance can be on the table to enable spades to be put into the ground. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. Another key collaboration is with the UN high-level champions. The ambassador couldn't be here this evening, but instead a very good colleague of ours, an associate, Harold Frieder, will say a few words on the champions' behalf. Harold.
Yes. 2 minutes. I give congratulations to GCCA and its partners on behalf of Her Excellency Razan, the high-level climate action champion. For those who don't know what it is, in Paris 2015, member states agreed maybe the ministers can't solve alone, and maybe we have to engage the private sector, investors, philanthropy and civil society. And that's why the high-level champion was established. Her Excellency Razan is at the moment with indigenous leaders and youth groups, so she asked me to give some words here. Thomas and Mr. Gonzalez, congratulations for the work you have been doing. I think it's exemplary, and we are just coming from the launch of the Industry Transition Accelerator, and I'm taking away one fact or one figure, which is 2 years, 2 to 3 years we have in this sector and other heavy emitting sectors to take financing decisions, so we are able to have the green infrastructure by 2030. I've been working in a big industrial company too. This is very short. I wish you all the best of luck, and you have all the support from the international community to get to these financing decisions. I think beyond collaboration, we need this very clear proofs on the ground. The engagement of the industry with UNIDO, with think tanks, with the UN has improved. You guys also need to have the business models ready. So 3 very short wishes for the way forward. 1, the breakthrough of cement will be launched, a very, very critical piece to have the right political frameworks in place so that the cement industry can have the planning security to take these decisions faster. 1. 2, I think along the value chain, along the carbon value chain, for example here in the Gulf, the industry can have the role of a backbone for a new green industry that will be necessary all over the world around a quick establishment also of CCUS infrastructure. And 3, the topics of circularity and resilience. I hope to hear more of this next year as the industry is taking care of their own numbers, but also is growing in providing the excellent infrastructure we need as the climate risk is increasing. So thank you very much, and I count on a good collaboration the way forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harold. Nearly there, nearly at drinks. Just to remind, we want to thank everybody for coming this evening. We want to thank you for the collaboration. We want to thank all our member companies, and you can see them all listed there. You can see them all on our website. I see many of them here tonight. I see Mollins, Cemex, Ultratech. I see Heidelberg. I see Holcim. I see Dalmia. In fact, Mr. Singhi, if you want to say a couple of words just to sort of close it about some of the work you're doing, no problem if not. Okay, yes, that would be nice, and then we can complete the evening. We can all have a drink. Thanks again for coming to the Pavilion launch and for the Net Zero Progress Report. There is a lot of, this is an industry that is already in action. We are making progress. There are challenges ahead, but we are determined to achieve that mission and goal. Thank you. Mr. Singhi, please step up, who is the CEO of Dalmia Cement.
Happy evening, friends. Thanks for coming here. I would like to first comment and congratulate the leadership of GCCA, Mr. Fernando, then Mr. Thomas and team, who have been able to create a great collaboration by which I think whole global cement industry could come together to go for decarbonization in a big way. I think the way it has been presented, which are facts, which are the actions, which are the commitments, it will go a long way. In fact, yesterday I was very happy when Sweden Prime Minister, while launching Lead IT 2.0, said that now cement is possible to abate sector. Like what our president has said, that yes, 5 years, 7 years back, it was the fact that people were not knowing much. But the point is that yes, the roadmap of GCCA for net zero carbon cement and concrete has proved that yes, we would be able to do it. We'll be able to contribute in a big way so that we can create global green from our side. I'm very happy that the organizations like UNIDO, Lead IT and the high-level champions, etc., they are committing that finance would be also available so that whatever green technologies are there, whatever the projects are there, we are able to take it forward. I'm very happy and feel very confident because I have been attending COPs since last COP21, and I do feel now that yes, all people, all organizations, all nations have come together and they are showing their commitment. Either it's for technology, it's for material, it's for circularity, or it's for finance. So thanks GCCA, and thanks to all of you that you have been in one way or other contributing in a big way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singhi. Thank you, Mr. Singhi. And the final words of thanks are to our Pavilion partners who have helped us to be able to deliver this. You can see all of them mentioned on there: Gensler, ACI, NEU, Cemex, Heidelberg, Holcim, and of course the collaboration with the SEM CCUS and the International CCS Knowledge Centre. We have a full program of events on this pavilion over the course of the next 2 weeks. There is a QR code that you can download. We've also printed a couple of copies off, but let's go digitally if we can. And so without further ado, thanks so much for coming. We are opening up the drinks such that we've been able to get. Please stay and have a network and a conversation with the industry and with the different stakeholders that are here. Thanks again.